this. I'll do this in the morning. And I don't have any inside information. The lady that did it, she got in there. She made it happen.
And he doesn't shy away from opinion.
And I do enjoy drinking cold beer at ballparks. So if that makes me a baseball fan, then I'm a diehard baseball fan.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And a very good Wednesday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL 92.5 FM with Aaron Williams. The Hacker Ryan Green with you. Glad you are with us. A Wednesday evening that finds us really into the NBA and NHL playoffs. Huge games on both the NBA and the NHL side, including the Orlando Magic, who could close out Detroit tonight. Although it's not looking good right now. No Franz Wagner for the Magic. The Pistons, obviously in a must-win situation. They lead at 50-37 in the second quarter. It was an 18-point game not that long ago. Orlando has at least gotten it down to 13. So we will certainly talk about that. We will keep you updated on that. Obviously, the Jaguars and the post-draft reaction. We will certainly talk about that. Is the NCAA tournament expanding to 76 teams? All of that is on the docket. And I got to take about the Jacksonville Jaguars coming up in one moment. But allow me, I don't even want to call it gloating. I just want to heap some praise on my guy, right? There comes a time in late April over in Mandarin when, Aaron, it's playoff time, right? It's win or go home in 6U T-ball, where only the strong survive. And tonight, Little Hack and his Mud Dogs over there in the Mandarin area, they had their backs against the wall. It was a win or go home situation. And not only did the Mud Dogs prevail and get a playoff victory to advance to the championship game on Saturday, but my guy registered 4 hits, 4 RBIs, got an out that he recorded as the second baseman, and received a game ball in the playoff victory. And we got it on video when he received the game ball. The way he looked and the way his teammates were cheering for him, all is right with the world when, as a father, you see that. I mean, that is just an incredible moment. Little man did such a good job tonight. It was such a good game. The other team played really hard. They had some great players as well. I mean, it's 6 and under T-ball. It is what it is. Everybody's a winner. Everybody plays hard. But for my guy to get the game ball in a playoff game and to win to advance to the championship game, oh, man, that absolutely is incredible. Dads out there, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. Granddads as well, whether it was your son, your grandson, 30, 20, 10, 5, a year ago, whatever it was. I'm sure me talking about it can take you back to that moment. But awesome on a Wednesday night. Congrats to all the kids over there at MAA in the playoffs. But Little Hacks Mud Dogs, and that team moves on Saturday to the championship. And my guy received the game ball this evening. I am one happy father here tonight on Hacker After Dark. Every night on HAD, we do kick it off with a big deal of the night. And Aaron Williams, let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal?
No, but it is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
13-4 last year. AFC South champions. Going from 4 wins to 13 wins amidst all of the nonsense that the Jaguars had to put up with. Small market this, can't win that. They're stealing signs. They're not as good as their record would indicate. Houston's the best team in the division. Yada, 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 yada. It was the same thing almost every week. And every week, at least for the last 2 months, the Jaguars went out there and won game after game after game. And one would think after 13-4, after an AFC South championship, After Liam Cohen finished second in NFL Coach of the Year voting, after what the Jaguars did to make over this roster and take a 5-18 team that they inherited, turn it into a 13-4 division champion, one would think that respect might come with that, correct? I don't know. I thought that it might. Not necessarily the case, because now everybody's talking about, well, you didn't bring back ETN and you didn't bring back Devin Lloyd. And the big thing now, the big thing is the Jaguars did not follow the consensus boards. Jacksonville has no idea what they're doing. James Gladstone. This is what others are saying, mind you. Others nationally are saying James Gladstone thinks he's the smartest man in the room and it's not going to work out. It's one of the worst drafts ever, and the Jaguars have had a horrible offseason. And there's nothing you can really do about that narrative until September. And we're in April, right? You're not going to change anybody's minds in the months of May, June, July, or August. So for the next 4.5 months, Jaguar fans, you're just going to have to put up with that. That this will be the Texans' division yet again. Jacksonville didn't have any idea what they were doing. It's a terrible draft. How can you let Devin Lloyd leave? How can you let ETN leave? The Jaguars took a step back. That will be the narrative. That will be what everybody nationally says. Which leads me to believe that 13-4 last year basically did nothing to turn the lack of respect card on the Jaguars. That there is still no respect nationally about this football team. And you know what I say to that? I say that's great. I say that is wonderful. Because you know who's going to eat that up again, just like he did a year ago, is Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen will eat that up again. Wouldn't surprise me if he brings every rookie that was drafted, all 10 of them that were drafted, and say, this is what people think of you. Drafted to a small market team. We didn't follow the consensus boards. You weren't worth the draft picks that we thought you were. Nationally, this, that, and the other. It's going to fit the narrative like a glove, the lack of respect that Jacksonville gets. It's almost as if 13-4 never happened. Because if you watch any of these shows or you listen to any of these national podcasts, the Jaguars, for the most part, are getting roasted for their draft class, getting roasted for what they did in free agency, or I guess in some opinions, what they did not do in free agency. Maybe I'm drinking the teal and black Kool-Aid, and I've never one to do that. I've been very critical of this team for many years. Some of you have given me grief for saying I'm too critical. I'm too negative. And as I always told you, you called it negative, I called it reality. Because the reality was, for a long time, that this was the worst organization in the NFL, and there was very little disputing that. It's not that way anymore. Not even close. I know that. You know that. But obviously the narrative around this football team on a national basis does not know that. Because the Jaguars are still getting roasted for their decision-making, getting roasted for what they did in the draft and what they did in free agency. Everybody thinks they're going to take a step back. Everybody. Which, again, fits into the narrative that I'm sure Liam Cohen is starting to formulate his plan of attack on. Negative. We were one-hit wonders last year. We can't do it again. The Texans did all this great stuff. The Titans got better. Indianapolis this. We're just little old Jacksonville, little old small market Jacksonville that we don't know enough to even follow consensus boards. when we're making draft picks. Baselli was on this morning with Prosser and Hicken, and he was basically like, yeah, I mean, if you listen to people in their basement, these draft guys, that we should fire everybody, right? We obviously don't know what we're doing. Now, he was saying that tongue-in-cheek, and good, right on for him. I don't blame him. Obviously, they've heard the outside noise. They're well aware of the narrative around this football team. I thought, and maybe stupid me for thinking this, I thought when you go 13-4, when you beat Patrick Mahomes on Monday Night Football, when you go into Denver and beat the Broncos, the only team to do that in the regular season, with a healthy Bo Nix, mind you. The Jaguars were the only team that went into Denver and beat the Broncos when Bo Nix was playing. When you absolutely take the Chargers behind the woodshed, stupid me, I thought that might garner you a little respect, garner you a little this and that, but no. It's back to little old Jacksonville. Consensus boards, the draft was terrible. They don't know what they're doing. James Gladstone thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. Blah, 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 blah. At least we're used to it, right? This is not something we are unaccustomed to. But unlike Doug Marrone, Doug Peterson, Gus Bradley, I won't even mention Urban because he was, the 1 year he was here, he was just too much of maybe aloof to realize it. The Jaguars never used that to their advantage, never called people out publicly until Liam Cohen arrived. And that's one of the things I love about Liam Cohen. And I talked about this last year a few times that I can remember. Liam Cohen says things in public that Jaguar fans have been thinking and talking about at the water cooler for years. Small market. We're just a small market team, right? We're just little old Jacksonville. Oh, they'll start respecting you when you win games. Oh, really? Liam Cohen said it won't come. The respect won't come. You know what? He's right. Because 13-4 and we're back to square one. Now you say, Hacker, what does that even matter? Well, I'll tell you why it matters. Because the Jaguars used that to their advantage last year. Liam Cohen had these guys believing that narrative, and that worked. Anything you can do to fire your guys up, to fire your fan base up, it worked. Can you do it again for a second year? We'll see, but they're going to have all the ammunition to if they want. Because the narrative around Jacksonville, amazingly, after 13-4 and a division championship, I would say nationally, is fairly negative. And even locally to an extent. I know a lot of Jaguar fans, like we talked about the last couple of nights. I know a lot of Jaguar fans that were pretty unhappy with what the Jaguars did in the draft. Again, I don't know why you're unhappy, because I think the Jaguars, personally, their draft is growing on me. It is. And again, maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. And I thought what James Gladstone said, I believe, to the boys on Jaguars.com, the consensus board. Well, it wasn't their consensus. Their consensus was inside the building, and their consensus was, we want Nate Borkesher. And who are we to say anything about that? A guy that takes a team from 4 wins to 13 wins in 1 year. Now, if this was Gene Smith, or if this was Trent Baalke, and he's doing stuff like this after 3 or 4 years of ineptitude, well then, yeah, maybe at that point you say, wait a minute, what are we doing? But James Gladstone in his second draft, after getting a roster to win a division championship, obviously with Cohen, and I mean, he wasn't alone in doing that, but he was part of it. I'm going to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that's me being an ultra positive guy. Maybe as I'm getting older, maybe I'm getting a little softer. I don't know. I always like to talk about reality. Like I said, maybe I was too negative years ago. You call it negative, I call it reality. Well, if I'm too positive now, I also like to call it reality. And what reality is the Jaguars are coming off a 13-4 year, a year where they improved their win total by 9 games, coming off, I believe, only their 5th division title in franchise history. playing only, I believe, their 7th or 6th home playoff game in franchise history. And I like the makeup of the roster. Did they lose something with Devin Lloyd? You bet they did. But as I will remind you, in August, which was not that long ago, about 8 months ago, we sat here and said, it's probably going to be Ventrell Miller's job. They didn't pick up the 5th-year option on Devin Lloyd. We thought it was Ventrell Miller's job, or at best, it was going to be a competition between Miller and Lloyd. Obviously, to Lloyd's credit, he went out there, he had a career year, and he earned money in Carolina. Good for him. Right on. I was a fan of Devin Lloyd. But in no way, shape, or form, in August of 2025, if I would told you Devin Lloyd wasn't going to be here in 2026, I don't think you would have lost any sleep over that. Travis Etienne, that one stings a little bit more. That one you can't really sugarcoat all that much. But again, you're not going to pay a running back $13 million a year like the New Orleans Saints decided to do. Instead, you're going to draft Bashal Tutin in round 4. You're going to draft LaQuint Allen Jr. in round 7. You're going to sign a guy in Chris Rodriguez who averaged 4.5 yards a carry and scored 6 touchdowns in Washington last year. And you're going to hope that that trio can give you similar production to what Etienne gave you a year ago. And outside of those 2 losses, Lloyd and Etienne, what else did the Jaguars lose? Dewey Wingard? Greg Newsome? I mean, come on. De'Ami Brown? They didn't lose anything outside of Lloyd and Etienne. They get Hunter back. You never even saw Ransaw last year. You bring in these 10 rookies. Second year in the system. Udinski, Campanile back as the coordinators. Stop focusing on what you perceive to be a glass half empty and look at the glass half full. And if you look at the glass half full, man, to me, the Jaguars have a lot of things going for them, including being able to play that narrative again for a second straight year that even despite 13-4, people thought you were one-year wonders. People are convinced it's going to be the same old Jags. People are convinced that we don't know what we're doing because we didn't follow their consensus boards, which is nonsense. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. And again, they're on the field for OTAs in less than a month at the Miller Electric Center. OTAs get underway 3rd week of May. They'll have OTAs then, OTAs in June, mandatory veteran minicamp in June. And then they'll take about 5 or 6 weeks off, and we will kick this whole thing off in less than 90 days when Jaguar training camp begins towards the end of July down at the Miller Electric Center. Let's update you on a couple of things going on in the NBA playoffs. Orlando, to their credit, they were down 18. They've cut it to 6. Detroit 66, Orlando 60. That's interesting. Give Detroit something to think about. Again, this is an elimination game.
You almost sound surprised, huh?
I'm very surprised. I mean, when you're down 18 in the first quarter and Detroit's got everything going their way, I'm very surprised. But give Orlando credit. They're battling. And just give Detroit something to think about tonight. I'm still convinced Detroit's going to win the game. 8 seeds don't beat 1 seeds in 5. And they don't knock them out on their home floor. I can't imagine a scenario where that happens. I hope I'm wrong. But have this be a 6-point game, an 8-point game, middle of the third. Just give Detroit something to think about with about 6 minutes to go in the third quarter and see what happens. Tampa Bay Lightning, for you Lightning fans, they were down 1-0. They've come back to tie Montreal 1-1 in the second. That is a huge game. Game 5 in the NHL playoffs. That series tied 2-2. We will keep you updated. Coming up next into the NFL draft, let's talk consensus boards. Let's talk about the Jaguar draft class. One of our favorites is Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network. He's always kind enough to join us here on Hacker After Dark, and he's up next on a Wednesday evening here in Northeast Florida. We're glad you're with us till 10 o'clock here on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
1010XL takes you inside the program director's office with Dan and Jeff.
Let's talk about me.
Mornings.
Listen, I really think you have a chance here. I mean, the best thing you have going for you is your willingness to humiliate yourself.
On 1010XL.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Instant Keys is turning 25. A quarter century of saving the day when your keys mysteriously vanish.
Seriously, it was just in my pocket.
Or when that remote fob decides to quit working.
The dealership is such a hassle.
For 25 years, Instant Keys has been the go-to locksmith service for car keys, house keys, transponders, re-keys, and even high-tech smart locks. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you. For honest, professional locksmith service, use Instant Keys.
Train your putt with pitch-perfect pointers from the pros and Dan Hicken and Jeff Prosser on Brunch with the Tour. Tuesday morning at 8:30. Teed up by Clearwater Irrigation and North Florida Medical Centers.
Looking for an exciting, fun-filled evening your whole group can enjoy? Discover the thrill of indoor football. Fast-paced, action-packed, and full of family fun. Be there as your Sharks take on the New Mexico Chupacabras Saturday, May 2nd at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena. Kickoff, 7 o'clock. Don't miss the action-packed halftime performance by Showtime USA. Ask about our family four-packs. 4 tickets and $50 in food vouchers, all for only $100. To purchase tickets, go to jacksharks.com or call 904-621-0700. That's 904-621-0700. It's Education Appreciation Night, presented by the University of North Florida. All teachers, administrators, and school staff get our special buy one, get one free ticket deal. Join us on the field after the game for our free autograph session, sponsored by Flight Adventure Park. Tickets start at just $15. Get yours today at 621-0700. That's 621-0700. Sharks football, where memories are made.
Go Sharks!
Checkmate. I'm Brendan Cecilia, founder of Checkmate Coatings.
And I'm Chester, the Checkmate chess man.
At most companies, people start on the ground floor and work their way up to the corner office. At Checkmate, I started on the ground floor, and almost 20 years in, that's still where I am, making ground floors look awesome, one garage at a time.
Well, I started as a pawn and worked my way up to king.
No, you didn't. Some guy drew you as a king. I asked them to give you a roller, so at least you look like one of the guys.
Yes, I rather would have preferred a sword.
At Checkmate, I work personally with our teams to perfect the preparation and application techniques that make Checkmate floors beautiful and durable.
And I keep things classy with my adorable accent.
Beautiful floors?
Check. Guaranteed to last?
Check. The finishing touch your home deserves? Checkmate.
Transforming your floors, making them great. Checkmate.
Visit checkmatecoatings.com.
When it comes to glass, you don't want average. You want flawless. Duval Glass and Mirror has transformed homes and businesses across Jacksonville for over 35 years. Frameless showers that wow. Mirrors cut exactly to your style. Fogged or broken glass replaced. Decorative tabletops. Windows replaced or repaired to stand up to Florida storms. All backed by a 100% guarantee. Visit DuvalGlass.com for your free quote. There's only one name for glass and mirror around these parts. It's Duval.
Feel the power. Hear the legend. One Night of Queen, performed by Gary Mullen and the Works.
You ready for this? Are you hanging on the edges?
The look, the sound, the electrifying showmanship of one of rock's greatest bands. One Night of Queen, April 29th at Florida Theater. Get your tickets now at floridatheater.com.
1010XL, presented by Farrah and Farrah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farrah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The Jaguar draft in the rearview mirror. Certainly it was an interesting one from a national perspective. A lot of people were talking about what the Jaguars did, in some instances did not do. I think I've heard the term consensus board more in the last 3 days than maybe I have in my entire life. Let's talk about what the Jaguars did and how it will affect the 2026 roster with one of our favorites. Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network does a terrific job covering the NFL draft, and Ian's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Ian, how you doing?
Doing good, doing good. It was an exciting draft all 3 days. A lot of unpredictability and ability and volatility like we expected, right? Not as much blue chip talent, not as much first round talent, but a lot of fun picks, and the Jaguars were at the epicenter of it, man. We saw it on the live show. We were covering on the live show. Their picks were a little unpredictable, not always what was expected, but there's been a lot of talk, like you said, about consensus boards and panning the selections as well. I don't know if I'll go that far. We'll have to see how it plays out, but it's a lot of interesting discussion points at the very least.
Ian, it seems almost there is just some negativity, some, dare I say, venom towards Jacksonville and what James Gladstone did to a certain extent. I mean, I don't know about the term consensus board. Obviously, this is what you do every day. What did you, I mean, we'll talk about individual players in a moment, but what did you make from a mile-high view of what the Jaguars did in this draft class?
Yeah, it's interesting. Not having the first round pick, I think, hurts a little bit, right? Because especially in this type of class where there's already a thinner blue chip and first round talent pool, right? If you don't have a first round pick, like, yeah, you can do something with that second round pick and the rest of the selections as well. But, it kind of accelerates your transition to just depth infusion, And looking at the Jaguars, it was very clear that they were trusting their board over any others. And I think, my bird's eye view stance from the Jaguars, right, is that I do think they boosted up the depth of their roster fairly well with this class, right? Obviously, the volume of the picks and getting, some good role players as well. But I did leave a little unsure about the value, right? And like you said, we're going to get into consensus board more, but I can talk about my personal board. Nate Borkercher was a mid to late day 3 guy on my board. They took him second round. Albert Regis was a mid to late day 3 guy on my board. They took him third round. Emmanuel Pregnon was a very good value pick. I thought that was a potential top 64 player they got in at the 88th overall pick. So again, that was very good too. But then Jalen Husky, kind of a mid to late day 3 as well. Wesley Williams, same tier. Tanner Koziel, same tier. But then you get into day 3 and the opportunity cost is reduced pick by pick, right? So mainly those top 100 picks, I think, are more heavily scrutinized because that's where the opportunity cost is greater for what talent is still left on the board. I thought the Jaguars sacrificed some in the way of opportunity cost, but at the same time, you can see the roles that these guys will play. Borkercher will be an elite blocker from day one, right? Albert Regis has the elite athleticism, right? Running a 4.88, 1.72, 10-yard split, the explosiveness and the line resetting power to at least be kind of a pesky threat at 3-tech for opposing offensive lines. And then you also have Husky, who's got corner, safety, versatility, experience as well, ball hawking ability. So you can see the reasoning for it. But looking at the composite evaluations, I think there were also holes that these players still leave unfilled.
Ian Cummings, Pro Football Network. Let's talk about Nate Borkercher first. Now, when they drafted him on Friday night, Ian, for about the 5 seconds right after, I thought, is that the guy that caught the ball against Notre Dame? And then obviously it was. He caught the game-winning touchdown pass in South Bend to beat the Irish. And then they never threw him the ball again. He was basically just a blocking tight end. What do you have, like 18 catches total last year? I don't know how you make the game-winning touchdown catch to beat Notre Dame, and then you just don't really get the ball the rest of the year. What was your thought there?
Well, yeah, and I will say with who gets catches when, there's always an inherent degree of variance, right? Like anyone can make an amazing catch one-off, right? It's a lot harder to do it time and time again, right? And I think with Borkercher, the reasoning behind that, why did he make this game-winning catch and then not get the run of production otherwise is, it has to do with the player type, right? And just I think that level of receiving utility is not something that he can provide just yet. I think you're looking at a guy who, yes, when he is targeted, fairly sure-handed, but also is a guy who doesn't have a very expansive route tree right now, right? Is also a guy who, in spite of the low drop rate, the hand technique can be a little more consistent sometimes to prevent instability. And also a player who I don't think is an elite pound-for-pound athlete either, without great route running building blocks. I do think he has good bend for his size and flexibility. And I think that will help him algorithms, you want to utilize him as a seam threat from inline positions, right? Maybe kick him out wide a little bit, but mainly going to be an inline guy, I believe. And that, there's benefit in that, right? Even if you use a lot of 11 personnel, which the Jaguars, with how deep that receiving core is, I could see them doing a lot of 11 personnel. You get Borkercher out there as the one blocking tight end. He's essentially a sixth offensive lineman out there, but at the same time, there's very little receiving value in. What I think it ultimately comes down to is, again, there's variance in where production comes from. Guys can make catches time and time again, but in general, when you look at production, the composite view is a little more reliable. And the composite view says he only had 38 catches over 5 seasons in his collegiate career. He was never that guy. Now, you look at Jackson Hawes over in Buffalo. That was kind of my comp for Borkercher, a guy who's going to be an elite blocking tight end on day one again, and could potentially develop into a serviceable short intermediate tight end with again strong hands over the middle, right? He's got some limited rack ability, but there's an uncertain projection there. I think there are a lot of tight ends in this class that you could look at and say they're going to give me a better balance of receiving and blocking value early on, and probably better long-term projections too. And ultimately, from a tight end, that's what they're supposed to do, right? It's not one or the other. You can have that guy in your rotation, but I think the best way to fully disguise concepts and keep defenses on their toes is to make sure you pose a threat in both phases. Borkercher has shown it in flashes, but I don't know if the route running, the separation framework, right? I don't know if the athleticism is there to the degree where I can count on him expanding beyond just being a serviceable guy.
Well, the Jaguars doubled up at tight end, Borkercher in round 2, and then Tanner Koziel in round 5. Here's a guy that caught everything at Houston. He was all Big 12 as the tight end. I don't know about his blocking. Certainly that could be something as to why he was projected day 3. But from a receiving tight end point of view, on paper, Koziel looks pretty good, does he not?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I made the comment during our PFSN live show, but literally the Jaguars, in my opinion, took 2 tight ends on the exact opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Nate Borkercher is an elite blocker with very uncertain receiving projection. Tanner Koziel is an elite pure receiving tight end with a very uncertain blocking projection, right? 6'6.5", so almost 6'7", 247 pounds, so a little bit lighter, a little bit leaner for that size profile, but near 34-inch arms. And like you said, the receiving profile is very appealing. Even going back to Ball State, he was productive there, but then it translated at the Power 4 level as well at Houston. And the way you look at the film too, I think he's a good route runner for his size. He really impressed me with, being a guy that tall. He's pretty fluid, right? A guy who fits the similar archetype in the NFL is Mike Gesicki, I would say, but Gesicki to me is a little bit more of a long striding, gangly vertical seam threat, right? I think Koziel is a lot more functional as a true route runner and separator at multiple levels, right? He can operate out of the inline position a little bit, but is probably more often going to be a big slot type, right? A flanker who can operate in space and at least separate up the seam. He's got a whip route as well. He's got some out routes in his arsenal too. And then as a red zone threat, that ability to box out with his frame and his length and his catch radius and snare high difficulty passes and high point the football, that's a very valuable trait too. So he's a guy who, again, we go back to tight ends. The moral of the story, in my opinion, for tight ends is that it can be a force multiplier, an X factor for disguising your schemes, right? And making sure you want the defense to not know, are you going to run a pass on that play, right? I think I could argue that both Borkercher and Koziel are unfortunately tells for that, right? Koziel is probably not going to be on the field for a lot of running reps. Borkercher may be on the field for a decent amount of passing snaps, but also you don't trust the threat that he's going to pose there, right? So again, I think kind of clashing questions for both of them. They both excel in their given spheres, but I also think they're relatively binary.
Ian Cummings, Pro Football Network. All right, Ian, in round 3, pick 88, you mentioned him earlier, Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon. Now, you had him as the top 64. That seems to be the consensus, is that he was a second-round projection. Why did he fall to 88? Because the crazy thing is, if Jacksonville takes Pregnon at 56 and even still takes Corbacher at 88, I don't know if they're getting the negativity they are now, even though it would be literally the same exact draft class.
Yeah, I know, and that's kind of a routine effect of the draft cycle, right? Is that every year we see reaches, but then teams make up for it later on. But the damage control done to the reputation doesn't quite match, right? It doesn't quite get back to zero. So I do think they earned some points back by getting Emmanuel Pregnon at 88. And to answer your question, why he fell, I mean, he still went top 100, right? To me, it's just natural variance of the board. You get through round one, round one, right? 32 picks. Every team has their own board, but I feel like there's less variance in terms of where players are ranked in round one, because those round one players, generally, they have more consensus appeal as to where they're ranked. You get into round two, and then the variance multiplies to an exponential level. It's like I like to look at it as kind of a family tree imagery, right? You have a smaller range of tree branches in round one, but then every branch fans out 5-10 times in round two, 5-10 more times in round three. And then day three, it's everyone's board for themselves. And that's where you get a lot of off the wall picks that you don't expect, or guys falling that you didn't expect either. So to me, it's just natural variance, natural volatility. But Pregnon is still very much worth, I thought, a pick at least a round earlier. And I think, you look at the Jaguars contract situation, right? I believe Ezra Cleveland is going to be up for a new deal after this year. So you have some long-term instability at the guard position. And I think Pregnon can be a long-term starter for you down the line. 6'4", 314, near 34-inch arms. So he's built to win in a phone booth with that long-limbed, powerful upper half, but then also having a strong anchor against the rush and against power. And then he's explosive, climbing to the second level. He's a little stiff in his hips, and I think that's one reason that he was lower for me than guys like Keelan Rutledge, who went round one, or Chase Pasantis. But still a tone setter who's got that heavy-handed style, who can win at the point of attack with that long-limbed profile and those powerful extensions, but then also maul guys into the turf if they give up leverage too. So Pregnon, explosive, heavy-handed, powerful guy, strong anchor, and is pretty sound in pass protection too with his technique, his upper lower sink, and his awareness against stunts, working through the interior, working across space. So I like him a lot. I thought it was a great value, and did it offset everything that the Jaguars did? Like, again, Regis was a little high for me too, but I think Pregnon, people are sleeping on the value there. I do think you have your long-term starter at guard. I think whether Cleveland moves on, I think that's a good opportunity for Pregnon to step in and keep Trevor Lawrence clean.
Ian, we've talked about Klobuchar, we talked about Pregnon, Kozil. Give us another guy or two in the Jaguar draft class that you thought was interesting.
Yeah, well, I thought Josh Cameron all the way in round 6 was very interesting. He was a player that I was intrigued by in the preseason, right? 6'1", over 220. To me, there's always been a little bit of overall volatility in his game, and that was very clear at the Senior Bowl as well. I think he has the ability to beat press to a degree. I think he's got a good short to intermediate route tree with quick slants and in breakers, right? He's got some seam threat ability or slot fade ability, but again, not quite elite vertical speed or explosiveness. Good twitch first size, but and then you have the catch radius, the play strength, but then some drop issues as well. So I think Josh Cameron, to me, is a player who has the upside to be a really quality rotational receiver, but is still kind of reaching that ceiling, still trying to reach that echelon. Getting him in round 6 was really incredible, was really nice value for me. And then CJ Williams as well. I think, looking at the physical skill sets that these Jaguars like to pull from, right? It's kind of that Parker Washington profile, right? Around 6'1", over 200, guys who have that play strength, that ability to just outman their defender at the catch point, and then ultimately, a crew rack as well, with scheme touches and open space too. Zach Durfee, in my opinion, was another really interesting pick in round 7. Athletically, this guy has it all. 6'5", 247. The length is a little concerning, just 31 and 1/2 inch arms, but 4.58 speed, had a 39-inch vertical and a 10.3 broad jump. Was never able to stay fully healthy for most of his collegiate career. So again, you're really banking on that upside and the availability long term. But he is a player who I think, at his maximum, you could be looking at a solid, at the very least, designated pass rusher, kind of a rotational catalyst, and a good special teams threat as well, probably. And then I would say, Jalen Husky was interesting. Again, a mid to late day 3 grade from myself. I don't think he's an elite athlete on the vertical plane as far as single high safety play. But he is a guy who has cornerback safety versatility. He is a guy who is at least, serviceable coming downhill and run support. And the ball hawking skills can't be overlooked. He was incredibly productive as a turnover threat at the collegiate level. So I'd have to think he could factor into that rotation. And, hey, the Jaguars, they've shown in recent years that they do know how to scout safety to a degree, right? So I think Husky could be a good option for them as well.
Ian, final question. We got about 60 seconds. The undrafted free agents. Look, I don't know how high we should get on these guys, but I will say a couple of them. Devin Marshall from NC State. I've seen a lot of people that were kind of surprised he didn't get drafted. He ends up in Jacksonville. The running back from Virginia is another one that some people thought would get drafted. He ends up in Jacksonville. The offensive lineman from UCLA, I know, had a draftable grade by some of the websites. Did you make anything out of what the Jaguars did in undrafted free agency?
Yeah. I think, well, they got the other Brian Thomas Jr. too, which is fun from South Carolina. I think he could be a potential rotational DPR. Not the best size, but good motor, good, decent burst and bend. Devin Marshall is a really fun player from NC State. Stingy guy, a stingy player, but again, undersized and average deep speed. So I think that combination was probably what made him go undrafted. But last year, his game against Florida State, he had 6 pass deflections in that game alone. So again, stingy, feisty, competitive at the catch point. He could be, at the very least, a rotational player. Preston Hodge, an experienced nickel with, I think good coverage, mobility, and fluidity and playmaking at the catch point as well. So could be a factor for them as well. And then Jamari Taylor, you mentioned Virginia, probably an early down volume back if he does stick on the roster. Not a ton of pass down value, but an intriguing piece. And then Trevor Pena from Penn State is another one that I'll throw in there. Pretty good route runner, not an elite size-adjusted athlete, but fluidity, agility, good production at the collegiate level. I do think there's some intriguing options there.
Ian, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville, Pro Football Network, and the coverage you guys will have now as you're recapping the draft.
Yeah, so you can follow me at IC_draft. PFN is, or it's not PFSN. I'm still getting used to that myself, but at PFSN365 on Twitter, on any social. We are head first into 2027 now. We've done recaps. You can find our video content, our great content on the site, our NFL Draft HQ. But now we are moving on to 2027. We've got the mock draft simulator already rolled over to the 2027 class with almost 500 prospects. We're adding more every day. I'll be adding reports and grades for them as well in very short order. And eventually we will have a full summer scouting suite for all you to peruse at your leisure and get affiliated with the next class coming up. So, and on top of that, plenty of other projects, but it's draft all the time over at the MDS, and it's a fun time. But we've reviewed this class, the Jags. They did some good things. I'm intrigued. Whenever a class is not what we expected, my stance is prove it, make it right. And I think the Jags have an opportunity to do that.
Ian Cummings. Ian, you've been so grateful and thoughtful with your time with us here in the last couple of weeks and months. We certainly thank you, as always, and we'll dial your phone again soon, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ryan.
Live streaming from the XL Digital Studios. Brightened by Harbor Dental Care, Jacksonville's first choice for dental emergencies.
Awaken 180 Weight Loss. Awaken 180 Weight Loss. Hacker here for the best weight loss program that I've ever been on. I hear all these people talking about, I got this injection or I got this medication to take. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, that's amazing because I lost over 100 pounds without any needles, without any pills. I did it with coaching. I did it with knowledge. I did it with people explaining to me why I had gotten it as heavy as I was and how to do something about that, eating the right foods, putting the right thing in my body. The coaching is second to none. You meet with your coach every week. You make a game plan for that week, and it works. The weight comes off. I'm living proof, over 100 pounds down. And then you get coaching for life on the maintenance program. Some point, those needles are going to go away, right? Some point, those pills are going to go away. But with Awaken 180 Weight Loss, they don't go away. They are with you until the long haul. Go to awaken180weightloss.com. That's awaken180weightloss.com. Or call 844-346-1800. Guys, do what I did and get involved with the terrific folks of Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
Now, another classic moment in Jags history.
Intercepted. It's Rasheed Mathis to win it for Jacksonville.
1010XL, home of the Jaguars.
Rick Ballou for Coy Dental. That's right, Carlson Dental is now Coy Dental. Dr. Lee has been practicing there for 9 years, has purchased the company. The Coy Dental team still has the same great dentists and staff. And remember, if you get nervous visiting a dentist, don't. There's never a problem at Coy Dental. With light sedation for cleaning and deep sedation for all your restorative needs. Coy Dental, located in Bartram Park.
David Garrard here. Playing in the NFL can put a lot of wear and tear on your body, especially your knees. Southeast Orthopedic Specialist has kept me mobile and ready to tackle every day.
Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
This is former NFL quarterback David Garrard. If your knees have taken a beating and you're finally ready to do something about it, then let Southeast Orthopedic take a look. Come on, do your knees a favor.
Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
Hi, this is Dale Murray with Murray Automotive Group in Stark and Kingsland. Save yourself from those big city dealers and their fast-talking mumbo-jumbo. No matter what your automotive need is, we've got you covered. Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and nobody beats our prices. I mean nobody. Shazam! Plus our exclusive 15-year, 150,000-mile warranty included on every qualified vehicle. And we'll trade anything from high heels to wagon wheels. Compare our prices online at ShazamAuto.com. Then come see me, Dale Murray. I'll be waiting for you. Shazam!
Did you know your roof ages from the inside out? By the time you see a leak, damage already exists beneath the shingles. Sun exposure, humidity, and seasonal storms slowly weaken roofing materials over time. If your roof is 15 years old or more, then now is the time to start planning, not reacting. At Endless Summer Roofing, we provide professional inspections and clear guidance so you can make informed decisions. Visit EndlessSummerRoofing.com to schedule a free inspection. Endless Summer Roofing, protecting your home from Florida's endless summers.
What if your next fun day out costs just $70 to play all day? That's exactly what you get at the Battalion Airsoft Arena, the only indoor airsoft battlefield in Jax. Skip the same old boring entertainment choices and step into real action with your crew. Perfect for birthdays, company team building, graduation parties, or just epic weekend fun. No experience? No problem. The Battalion package includes everything: gun, mask, and ammo with unlimited play. So lock in your mission now at BattalionAirsoftArena.com.
Tom McManus here for Armstrong Fence Company, a locally owned and operated business on the First Coast for nearly 20 years. Known for reliability, quality craftsmanship, and professional service, Armstrong Fence handles it all, from big projects like stadiums and schools to your very own backyard. They build a wicked strong fence, and they do it right the first time. When you need a fence in Jacksonville, trust Armstrong Fence Company. Yeah, we did the fence.
Hey, Hickett here, and oh man, TopDressing.com came and hit my lawn with that deep aeration and overseeding. I got to see their truck. Ooh, is that cool? It's like a transformer. Aerators rolling right off it. They punched the yard. They dropped their proprietary mix and cleaned up like they were never there. Next step, rich, green St. Augustine grass. If your lawn needs a real turnaround, call TopDressing.com today for your free estimate. They'll make your grass look like a golf course for real. Call today and top dress your lawn like the pros with TopDressing.com.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah.
I wake up to the sounds of the silence that allows for my mind to run around with my ear up to the ground. I'm
Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Thank you to Ian Cummings, Pro Football Network, for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. Always enjoy the conversation with Ian. He's always so grateful, thoughtful with his time leading up to the draft and certainly post-draft as well. So thank you to Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network. Back in to the Jaguar conversation coming up in just a bit. Also, Brad Menendez of DraftCountdown.com. Draft Countdown has been one of the websites I've gone to for a long time. Brad Menendez is the guy over at DraftCountdown.com now, and we will get his reaction to what the Jaguars did coming up in about 20 minutes or so. We'll update you on a couple of scores in the NHL playoffs and the NBA playoffs in a moment. But first, I wanted to get to this, and I'm going to talk more about this with Brent Beard coming up later on in the 9 o'clock hour. But I wanted to hit it first a little bit right now. There was a time in my sports fandom where I hated change. I hated it. I just did not want you to mess with my sports. And what do I mean by that? Well, the idea of having Thursday night NFL every week, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, Why? Sunday afternoon football. That's what I like. Why mess with Sunday afternoon football? And of course now, Thursday night NFL football is something I very much look forward to. So I accepted that change, and quite frankly, I'm a fan. NBA playoffs is another one. The idea of the play-in a couple of years ago, I hated that when I heard it. I hated it. I said, the play-in? It's hard enough to be one of the top 8. Now, if you're 7 or 8, you don't even get in. You got to play 9 or 10. Why are they doing that? Yet I get it. It gives more teams an opportunity, keeps more fans interested in the game leading into, the postseason. It's kind of grown on me a little bit. Probably because Orlando is involved in the play-in more times than they're not. So I've had a firsthand account of the play-in. When I heard about it at first, I thought I was going to hate it. Now that I've seen it, it's kind of growing on me. Point being in all this, I guess as you get a little older, a little wiser in life and in a sports fandom point of view as well, you maybe accept change a little more than you did when you're younger. I say all that to say this, and maybe I'll be sitting here 3 years from now, and maybe I'll be saying, when I heard about this, I thought it was going to be awful, but it's kind of grown on me. Maybe we'll get there. But we're not there tonight. The idea that they're going to expand the NCAA tournament to 76 teams, why? Well, we know why. I mean, it's money. That's all it is. It's money. But 64 was a great number, right? You got 4 regions, 16 teams. Done. Then the Mountain West Conference came in, and they used that excuse to say, all right, well, now we have an odd number, so instead of taking an at-large away, let's just round it to go to 68, and we'll have 8 teams compete in play-in games for the last 4 spots. Okay. I still am not a big fan of the 4 Dayton games. It is what it is. Whatever. But now they can't stop there. Now they got to go from 68 to 76. And the thought is they're going to have 52 teams that are in the NCAA tournament. And you're going to go from 4 play-in games to 12 play-in games. So basically, seeds 53 through 76 are going to play each other in 12 different games, and those 12 winners will be then the final 12 to add to the 52 that are already in to give you 64. Basically, it's 8 more play-in games than we have right now. I didn't think the 4 play-in games we had in Dayton right now were particularly popular. I don't know a lot of people that say, you know what, I can't wait for that play-in game in Dayton. I can't wait for East Tennessee State to take on Sam Houston. Man, that is going to be something on True TV at 6:40 on a Tuesday night. And now you want to add 8 more games that are, quote, play-in games? I guess if you can get the revenue and the advertising dollars and that, I understand why they're doing it. From a college basketball fan, that just does not appeal to me very much. I don't know why you have to keep messing with a good thing. Now, again, I didn't think I'd like Thursday night NFL, and I do. I didn't think I'd like the NBA play-in tournament, and I do. Maybe I'll be sitting here 3 years saying, you know what? Man, these 12 play-in games are spectacular. I love the fact that they went from 68 to 76. Maybe I will say that one day. But for the here and now, not a fan of this, man. I think it's just going to be 8 additional games that no one's going to care to watch, just like the 4 you already have in Dayton. It's the almighty dollar. But that apparently is what's going to happen probably as soon as, like, literally this next college basketball season. We may have seen the last NCAA tournament with 68 teams And they may just make the jump to 76 this year. That appears to be the direction that it's going in. National Hockey League, pivotal Game 5 down in Tampa. Montreal and Tampa, they're tied 2-2, and the game is tied 2-2. Heck of a series there. Also in the NBA, the Magic did have it down to 2. Detroit is back up 9 late in the third. Again, a must-win situation for Detroit. As I told you, Orlando's not winning this game. No Franz Wagner. Detroit at home. They got to win. They're going to win. And for Orlando, it's going to come down to Friday night. It's going to come down to Game 6 in Orlando. Can you beat them in the Kia Center? And if you can win at home, you'll win the series. Because they're not going to win in Detroit in Game 7 on Sunday. So even though it's 3-1, it's going to be 3-2. And to me, Orlando's season will come down to Friday night in Orlando. The Magic have absolutely got to close it out in Orlando. They're not going to have a shot of winning Game 7 in the Motor City. We'll keep you updated, but Detroit back up 9, 3.5 to go in the third quarter. Glad you're with us. Hacker After Dark on a Wednesday evening. Back into the National Football League next, right here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Live play-by-play sports were made for radio.
Well, there is advertising worth the price of admission.
And 1010XL was made for you.
Beat the spring cleaning rush and call Zero Res. Hey, Hicken here. Step into a fresher, cleaner home this spring with Zero Res. You might think because you mop off and your floors are clean, but they're actually collecting dirt not obvious to the eye. After a while, the hardwood or tile or LVP looks dull. This is where Zero Res can help. This month, 20% off all hard floor cleaning. 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $135. Call 287-5727 or go online at zeroresjacksonville.com. Make sure to ask for the 1010XL special.
Zero Res.
Rick Ballou here with a congratulations for John's Auto. They've been in business in Jacksonville for 40 years. That's right, going all the way back to 1985. Right now, they'd like to thank each and every one of you who's ever gotten their vehicle serviced at John's Auto. So, car, truck, or diesel, all makes, all models, whether it's a routine maintenance or a complete engine overhaul, go to John's Auto on Arlington Road, JohnAutomotiveJacks.com.
Go where the air is fresh and nature is your landscape.
Amazing, isn't it?
We go to the great outdoors with Jeff Logan, Captain Kevin Favor, and Captain Kirk Walls on the Nimnicht Outdoors Show every Saturday morning from 7 to 10 on 1010XL.
It's time to take your season to the next level when the Jaguars return to the bank in 2026. Become a season ticket member and unlock exclusive access to ticketed events, members-only experiences, NFL membership club perks, and more. Availability is limited due to in-bowl renovations, so don't wait. Call 904-633-2000 or visit jaguars.com/season tickets to secure your spot at the center of the action. We'll see you at the bank this fall.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still, present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. This is Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Other NBA playoff games tonight. How about Toronto? They were down 2-0 to Cleveland. They go home. They win games 3 and 4 in Toronto. And now game 5, series tied 2-2. And the Raptors have a 7-point lead at the half, 74-67. They lead Cleveland. Later on tonight, it will be game 5 between the Rockets and the Lakers. Lakers lead that series 3-1, looking to close out Houston tonight in 5 games. Into the National Football League we go. You know, hope springs eternal this time of year. Everybody believes that their team had a great draft. I guess maybe unless you didn't follow the consensus board, which, by the way, back to the whole consensus board thing, and we're going to talk about this with Brad Menendez of DraftCountdown.com coming up in a moment. It's not just Jacksonville. San Francisco apparently is getting beat up pretty good for not following the consensus board. Houston apparently is getting beat up pretty good for not following the consensus board. Well, what do San Francisco, Houston, and Jacksonville all have in common? They all were in the playoffs last year. They all were really good in the regular season last year. And those are the three teams that are getting the wrath of a lot of NFL draft media for not following the consensus board. So it'll be pretty interesting to see what ultimately happens there. Rookie minicamps are going to start up here in the near future. It will be interesting to see a lot of these rookies get out on the field. We'll get our first look at Fernando Mendoza, obviously in a Las Vegas Raider uniform. We'll get our first look, Ty Simpson, right, in an LA Ram uniform. So it'll be interesting to see what some of these guys start looking like. OTAs for a lot of these teams also are going to begin starting in the next couple of weeks. But, yeah, I mean, look, the Jaguars, the rookies, a lot's going to be on their plate. Although if you look at what they did, of the 10 guys that they drafted, not one is expected to come in and having to contribute right away, right? Borkesher's your backup tight end, right? Albert Regis, the defensive tackle, certainly not a starter. He's going to be a rotation guy. Emmanuel Pregnon, same thing. Jalen Husky, same thing. I mean, you drafted 10 guys, and you're not counting on any of those guys to come in and start. You know what that tells me? It tells me your roster's pretty good. If you use 10 draft picks, including 4 inside the top 100, and you're not necessarily going to need any of those guys to come in and start for you, that, to me, signifies a pretty good roster. Let's talk about it with Brad Menendez, draftcountdown.com. We'll talk about consensus boards, although I will tell you this about Brad. He was probably a little higher on what the Jaguars did than some of his colleagues. You'll hear his comments next. It's halftime on Hacker After Dark. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. We'll take you up till 10 o'clock, as we do every night, right here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM.
Franz Wagner gets a step. He jams it.
I'm Orlando's Magic Man, Franz Wagner.
A German hammer.
On Jacksonville Sports Radio, 1010XL.
Whoa. Okay, this one says you get a free phone if you switch. Hey, this one also says you get a free phone if you switch.
Yeah, they all do, hon.
Wait. The T-Mobile one says families saved over $3,700 versus the other big guys in the past 5 years. And their experience plans have Netflix included, plus a year of Dash Pass by DoorDash.
Hang on, let me see that. And a 5-year price guarantee? Oh yeah, we're switching.
That's what I'm talking about. Do we clap now, or?
I'm thinking half-half.
At T-Mobile, get savings that keep stacking up. That's value you can feel every day. Switch now at T-Mobile.
Savings based on Harris X billing snapshots from Q3 2021 to Q4 2025 among accounts with 3+ voice lines compared to AT&T and Verizon, excluding discounts, credits, and optional charges. See harrisx.com/T-Mobile. Price guarantee on talk, text, and data. Exclusions like taxes and fees apply. See T-Mobile.com.
This is Dr. Kevin Kaplan, team physician for your Jacksonville Jaguars. At Orthopedic Specialists of Jacksonville, we know not every injury happens on game day. Sometimes it's rolling your ankle, weekend yard work, or just playing catch with your kids. That's why we built a team of fellowship-trained orthopedic surgeons, experts in everything from knees and shoulders to spine and sports injuries in hand. Whether you're chasing championships or chasing your dog, we've got you. Learn more at osjax.com. That's osjax.com.
The flagship station of the Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you.
Instant Keys saves the day if you have lost or broken keys. They can program new keys and remotes for nearly every make and model of vehicle at a fraction of the dealership cost. Fast, honest, and reliable locksmith service. Call 722-1111.
Instant Keys. Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you.
When it comes to glass, you don't want average. You want flawless. Duval Glass and Mirror has transformed homes and businesses across Jacksonville for over 35 years. Frameless showers that wow. Mirrors cut exactly to your style. Fogged or broken glass replaced. Decorative tabletops. Windows replaced or repaired to stand up to Florida storms. All backed by a 100% guarantee. Visit DuvalGlass.com for your free quote. There's only one name for glass and mirror around these parts. It's Duval.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, your home for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we are glad you are with us. The NFL Draft in the rearview mirror. Obviously, the Jaguars were the topic of a lot of conversation earlier this week by what they did, or I guess in some instances, what they did not do up in Pittsburgh. Let's talk about the Jaguars, the class as a whole, and how that class will affect the 2026 roster. Brad Menendez, draftcountdown.com, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Brad, how you doing?
Oh, I'm great, Ryan. I'm more excited for your Jags than I guess most people are. I think their draft wasn't as terrible as people make it out to be. How are you, sir?
Okay, I'm good. Interesting. All right, that'll be a nice change because they've gotten kind of raked over the coals. First and foremost, the idea of consensus boards, and the Jaguars didn't follow consensus boards. Brad, it almost seems like some draft analysts are angry by that. What's your take on that whole situation?
Well, all of us in the media, we want to be right. So when the teams don't help us, it makes us feel a little bad. For me, it really comes down to, you've heard a lot of people talk about this draft being very much a Wild West. Like, these teams are going to go in and kind of pick your poison. You've heard a lot of talk about NIL keeping kids out of the draft and that changing the landscape moving forward. For me, it really comes down to, I set my consensus rankings, but that's what I would do. The Jaguars did not hire me to run their team. So the best I can do is make an educated guess. And, I felt like with Jacksonville as a whole, there were some positions I thought they targeted, and they did. Maybe not with the players I thought, but they still hit those positions. And I think moving forward, you're going to see a lot more of this across the league.
Let's begin with Nate Borkature. Obviously, that was the first pick for the Jaguars, 56 overall, the tight end out of Texas A&M. Did not get a lot of opportunities to catch the football. When he was given the opportunity, he did a pretty good job. He's also, I guess, one of the better blocking tight ends in the draft. What did you make about the Borkature selection?
Yeah, they took two tight ends, and I actually liked their fifth-round pick a little bit more than Borkature. But, the thing about him is, a lot of people are going to say, well, there wasn't the production throughout college, but when you saw him on the field, you see the athletic profile of a guy who could play in the league, a do-it-all type tight end that you could see him beating some man over the middle. You could see him taking on some of the linebackers and being able to outrun them. I think he's got the ability. And the great thing is with Strange there, you don't need either of these tight ends to be anything more than depth that can develop. So you're looking at, yes, maybe they took him a little too early at the second, but they took him here thinking this is a guy that's going to be able to develop down the road and the chance to be a potential starter that has the athletic profile and the blocking ability. The league is doing more 2 and 3 tight end sets. A lot of these teams are. So I don't blame them for looking at this pick and taking this player here, because I think he could develop for them.
Brad Menendez, draftcountdown.com. You mentioned the other tight end, Brad. That was Tanner Koziel of Houston. The guy catches everything. He's a big dude, 6'7", 255. You said you like Tanner Koziel out of Houston.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. I was looking more at the pass catching ability just because of how much teams are using their tight ends as pass catchers. You saw a very consistent production profile as a pass catcher. Now, I think the issue that he'll run into at the next level is you got to bulk him up. You got to get the strength there to be a blocker as well, because teams expect tight ends to do a little bit of everything. They may not be amazing blockers, but they got to be able to do it. So some of that, the muscle mass, the burst, the strength, I think those are things they're going to need to look at. And I think he's probably more depth than a true starter at some point. But I like him as a nice depth piece for them, especially as a pure pass catcher. If you're running out Strange, Morkacher, and Koziel, I mean, teams are going to have a little bit of trouble trying to figure out who to defend, especially with these wide receivers and your athletic running backs.
Most people will tell you, Brad, the Jaguars' best value was Emmanuel Pregnon out of Oregon, the offensive guard. Some people had him, in fact, a lot of people that I've talked to had him in round 2. He falls to 88 in round number 3. First and foremost, did you have a round 2 grade on him? And if so, why did he fall?
Yeah, I am 100% with everybody else. This is by far the best pick in the draft. And if he would have been their second round pick, I would have said this makes a lot of sense. Early in the draft process, he actually was a guy I was looking at as a back half of the first round type player. But then, there started to be concerns about, yes, he played played a significant amount of reps throughout college, but at the same time, have we seen kind of who he is? And so there was some of that back and forth, and I wrestled with that. But I think what he does is, and the great thing about him is that he doesn't have to start from day one. But if Cleveland or Macari or somebody goes down, he could step in because he's played a lot of meaningful reps. So I think he's a great pick, and for them to get him that far down, I mean, I had him. The most recent mocks I did, he was solidly in the second round, and going to Jacksonville, I think, is a huge gift for them.
Brad Menendez, draftcountdown.com. You look on the defensive line, Brad, they addressed that in round number 3 as well with Albert Regis out of Texas A&M. If you want to throw in the edge guys with Wesley Williams out of Duke. And then Zach Dufree out of Washington is a guy that I think a lot of people were intrigued by in round 7. Out of those guys, Durfee, Williams, Regis, any of them stand out to you?
Yeah, I really like the edge rushers developmentally. Now, if I remember correctly, when we talked last, I think I was talking a lot about Grayson Holton, the interior defensive tackle. So I expected them to target a defensive tackle. The great thing about all 3 of these pieces is these are guys that I think could develop into guys who give you significant reps. But both with the way your team is built, they don't have to start from day one. You can grow them, you can let them rotate in, and they can really get some good learning from some very high-level players. Walker and Hines Allen are good at what they do and can train these guys. But I think both Williams and Dufree are both athletic, both have the burst, and you just have to develop. What else do they have? Can they do more than just be a fastball? Can they give you some strength? Can they do some bull rushing? I mean, there's some things here that we want to see them maybe grow and develop with. And taking them in the 4th and 7th round, I mean, that's great. They don't have to be guys that you're expecting meaningful reps from day one. So I think all 3 of these picks are good defensive line prospects. Maybe not the guys I had projected to Jacksonville, but I think they absolutely fill a need and can be guys you can get meaningful reps out of in the future.
You mentioned the 2 tight ends the Jaguars took. Again, Brad Menendez of draftcountdown.com. The Jaguars also, Brad, took 2 wide receivers. Now, I know a lot of people are pretty high on Josh Cameron, the young man out of Baylor, particularly in the return game. C.J. Williams, I've been all over the board with this week. I have people that talk to that like him. I got a guy that I talked to that said he didn't think he was an NFL player. Where were you with Cameron and C.J. Williams?
Yeah, well, Williams is one of those when you watch him, there's times you see flashes where like, okay, maybe this guy can develop into something. I just didn't see enough consistency, but it's also the program. I mean, Stanford hasn't exactly been a factor here recently producing NFL talent. So I think a lot of people are going to be very torn on him. I think I like the size. I like the athletic profile. Can they develop their wide receivers? I think is going to be the critical piece of it. And, and I think the jury's still out on that, right? Parker Washington, I really like. So can he learn from a guy like that as we still see, Jacoby Myers and Brian Thomas grow and develop, so can this coaching staff get the most out of a player that has a lot of inconsistencies? Now, on the other side of things, Josh Cameron, I mean, he came from a high-powered offense. I was really surprised that his quarterback didn't get drafted. They put up a lot of production, a lot of numbers. I think the great thing about Cameron is that he's really good in the red zone. I think he's a really strong player that I think could wind up becoming one of those red zone targets just because he is so physical and kind of can bully those corners in the back end. So I think you probably see more value from Cameron down the road than you do Williams, but they drafted him later thinking that they could develop him. So the jury will definitely be out on him for a while, if at all.
Brad, I don't want to ask you for a thorough breakdown about the 240th player taken, but the one thing I have learned about Parker Hughes out of Middle Tennessee is, well, A, he ran a 4.4 40-yard dash as a linebacker, which that'll grab your attention. And B, I was told by two different people that they heard there were teams that wanted to draft him in round 7 because there was going to be a bidding war for him in undrafted free agency, and the Jaguars went ahead and pulled the trigger at 240. What's your thought on Hughes?
Yeah, I mean, that typically what you'll see in the 7th round, especially later in the 7th round, is guys are going to get picked that are probably in consideration for a big signing bonus as free agents. He comes from a small school, but he has that athletic profile. And when I'm doing mocks or when I'm looking at 6th and 7th rounds, I'm typically looking for somebody with a really standout trait, whether they're extremely strong and physical in the run game, whether they've got that burst and explosion, whether they can be good in coverage. I mean, with this guy having such a fast 40, I think people are just really going to be interested to see if he can develop into something. Now, the great thing again for the Jaguars is this whole draft was basically filling depth with guys that could potentially give you something meaningful down the road. He doesn't have to play anytime soon. So I like what the team is set up around him because he has a lot of talented veterans to learn from. So I think they made the smart move of picking him up because I had seen a lot of that as well, where he was probably going to get a decent signing bonus where you're not paying him nearly as much drafting him in the 7th round.
Brad, as we begin to wrap up, the one guy I haven't asked you about is Jalen Husky out of Maryland. Boy, you talk about the ball just seeming to find him. 11 career interceptions, and it kind of fits the Jaguars' MO. Caleb Ransaw last year, they inherited Antonio Johnson, this staff did, but guys in the secondary that can play safety and maybe also dabble in corner a little bit, which apparently is what Jalen Husky can do.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the guys that I thought was one of the smarter safeties in the draft in terms of being able to pick up the route of the receiver and really go with it. Almost like he had the quarterback mentality back there in the secondary. I think the tough thing is that, most people projected him as kind of a average to high end backup and more of a guy that could be a starter anytime soon. So he's one of those that I don't anticipate them rolling out on short of an injury, rolling out anytime soon. I think they're going to let him learn back there, and with having Johnson and Murray and some of these other pieces here, they don't have to start him anytime soon. But I think with the way that this defensive scheme runs, having a guy that can be a bit of a ball hawk that is very intelligent, I think is going to bode well for him moving forward. So I like the pick. I know there was a lot of people that didn't love him with some of the other safeties that were on the board, but his size, he's got enough speed to play that position. I think they really landed a good piece here that should, in the next couple of years, you should start seeing something meaningful out of.
As far as undrafted free agency, obviously Joey Aguilar, people know him from his time in the Southeastern Conference. Devin Marshall out of NC State, I saw maybe even a round 5 or 6 projection on him. He goes undrafted. The running back out of Virginia, likewise. Anything catch your eye as far as what the Jaguars did in undrafted free agency?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. I think Brian Thomas Jr. out of South Carolina was an interesting edge prospect that I kind of had a day 3 grade on, 6th, 7th round. He was one that I would have expected to get drafted. Otherwise, some depth guys, you didn't see a lot of. I think Marshall and Thomas were the two that, as I was looking over their UDFAs, where I was like, okay, these are guys that you could see make the practice squad early on and maybe potentially develop in the back into the roster guys. But otherwise, not a lot to love on the UDFA front.
Brad, it's interesting. You and I have talked for the last 13 minutes, and it doesn't seem like, and you mentioned this at the start, it doesn't seem like you hate this draft near as much as some of your colleagues do nationally.
Not at all. For me, when you're looking at a team like Jacksonville, who had starters across the board, I mean, they have a solid roster of starters that they really didn't need to go out and make that big splash and need to reach for a guy that may or may not. They really did a good job, I thought, of identifying areas that needed some depth with guys that could potentially develop. And I think they nailed that. I think they did a really good job in that. You know, I thought tight end and defensive tackle, and then some more edge rushers, because you can never have enough pass rushers, you know. So those are three areas for Jacksonville that I thought if they grabbed a few guys in the draft, that I would feel like they made some good moves. You know, I think wide receiver is the one position where after your starters, you have a lot of question marks, but they went and still targeted some guys that, you know, have some trait that is exciting about them. So it's one of those things where I personally thought they drafted well for what they were looking for, but it was a lot more, these are depth guys that are they going to develop into something? So you're really putting a lot on your coaching staff in this situation. And, you know, so far I've liked what Cohen and company has done. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, they saw something in these guys they think they can work with, and let's see what happens.
Brad, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville about draftcountdown.com. I'm sure you have a lot of analysis reviewing the 2026 draft, and I have no doubt you guys are moving very quickly on into 2027.
Yeah, I already, over at draftcountdown.com, I've already dropped my first 2027 mock as of, I believe, this morning. So draftcountdown.com, and then if people have questions, they can always hit me up over on X at @DBradMenendez. And as always, I appreciate you having me on.
Brad Menendez, draftcountdown.com. Brad, I know you're busy, man. Thank you for the time. We'll do it again soon, pal.
Pleasure's all mine. Take care, brother.
Because radio is supposed to be fun.
Feels kind of like the first day of spring training for Little League here.
1010XL.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
If you think it's great to be you can get more Gators anytime on the Gator Podcast channel.
Go Gators!
Set up by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists on the video and social channels of 1010XL.
Feel the power. Hear the legend. One Night of Queen, performed by Gary Mullen and the Works. The look, the sound, the electrifying showmanship of one of rock's greatest bands. One Night of Queen, April 29th at Florida Theater. Get your tickets now at floridatheater.com.
When you hear Florida Gators baseball on 1010XL, it's brought to you by Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors, Randy Marion Cadillac of Jacksonville, and by the personal injury attorneys of Farah and Farah.
Lifetime Flooring.
Jeff Breyer and Zach Breyer here with the Lifetime family of companies. Looking to revitalize and fall in love with your home again?
At Lifetime Flooring, our family-owned team brings you top-quality flooring and bath remodels with the professionalism that big box stores can't touch.
And Lifetime Enclosures will help you design and build what will become your favorite room in your home.
This Easter, everybody will want to hop on over.
Absolutely. So visit our websites or one of our showrooms today to experience the Lifetime difference and ask about our Easter specials.
Lifetime Flooring.
Spring is here. Is your yard ready? Lucas Tree Service, a family-owned business with over 45 years of experience, is Jacksonville's certified arborist for safe tree removal, trimming, and stump grinding for homes and businesses. Protect your property, boost your curb appeal, and enjoy expert service you can trust. Keep your trees healthy and safe before summer arrives. Schedule your inspection today at lucastreeservice.com.
Did you know that an annual coating inspection can extend the life of your building by years? Catching early signs like hairline cracks, fading, and moisture intrusion helps prevent costly repairs down the road and keeps your property looking its best. Our team at Performance Painting helps you stay ahead of maintenance with professional inspections and long-lasting coating solutions. Protect your building, protect your budget. Go to performance-painting.com to schedule a free inspection. Performance Painting, repair, protect, preserve.
Performance Painting.
In the game of vehicle performance and reliability, Atlantic Infinity is always the top pick. This is Hayes Carlion. Did you know that every certified pre-owned Infinity is inspected, factory backed, with a limited warranty, and gets the same championship level service as a brand new Infinity? Every mile will feel like first class. Check out their full certified inventory now at AtlanticInfinity.com or visit Atlantic Infinity off Atlantic near St. John's Bluff.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. Now, the Monahan's golden moment. Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach, your local family jewelers.
Yeah, there were a lot of golden moments, but I think the big one tonight is the narrative for the Jaguars, the lack of respect that we saw last year, even after 13-4, and even after an AFC South championship, to me, still remains coming into this year. Look no further than the draft analysis that we've seen about what the Jaguars did in Pittsburgh and the lack of free agent movement. People believe Jacksonville is going to be a one-year wonder. And whether that turns out to be true or not, the point is that is a narrative that Liam Cohen can dive into for a second straight year. 13-4 was great, but still no one believes in you. And that'll be a powerful narrative. Obviously, this team showed last year. They responded to that. We'll see if it happens again in 2026. Coming up next, my buddy Brent Beard. You see him locally on First Coast News. You also get him weekly here on Hacker After Dark. We'll talk about 76 teams in the NCAA tournament. That appears to be where we're going. And have you seen what John Summerall is doing on the recruiting trail for the Florida Gators? We'll talk about all of it next on a Wednesday evening here in Jacksonville, Florida. We're glad you're with us till 10 o'clock, Hacker After Dark, on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM.
There's something about hearing the game live that makes it all come to life. Feel the energy on 1010XL, Jacksonville Sports Radio.
Been in a car crash? I'm local attorney Rick Alexander, and I've made it our mission at the Alexander Law Practice to listen to you so I can fight for the best possible result for you. I've been practicing over 30 years, and our team focuses on guiding you through the entire process. And because fees and reimbursement costs come out at the end of the case, I will never ask you to come out of pocket. For a free review, call 904-400-6600 or log on to alexanderlawpractice.com, Jacksonville.
I used to dread going to the dentist. Every visit felt like a sales pitch with constant upselling, surprise fees on my bill, and I could never get in when I needed to. But Harbor Dental Care? Totally different. They saw me the next day, gave me honest pricing up front, and even set me up with a payment plan I could actually afford. No pressure, no surprise charges, just kind people who get it. If you want to experience dentistry the way it should be, book your appointment today at harbordental.care. That's HARBOUR dental.care.
Checkmate. I'm Brendan Cecilia, founder of Checkmate Coatings.
And I'm Chester, the Checkmate Chessman.
At most companies, people start on the ground floor and work their way up to the corner office. At Checkmate, I started on the ground floor, and almost 20 years in, that's still where I am, making ground floors look awesome, one garage at a time.
Well, I started as a pawn and worked my way up to king.
No, you didn't. Some guy drew you as a king. I asked them to give you a roller, so at least you look like one of the guys.
Yes, I rather would have preferred a sword.
At Checkmate, I work personally with our teams to perfect the preparation and application techniques that make Checkmate floors beautiful and durable.
And I keep things classy with my adorable accent.
Beautiful floors?
Check. Guaranteed to last?
Check. The finishing touch your home deserves? Checkmate.
Transforming your floors, making them great. Checkmate.
Visit checkmatecoatings.com.
What Major League Baseball team has never been to a World Series? The answer next.
Southern Oak Insurance is proud to continue offering coverage statewide. Financial stability makes Southern Oak Insurance a wise choice for your homeowner's insurance needs. Log on to southernoak.com.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
The Seattle Mariners, who were founded in 1977, have never been to the World Series.
Southern Oak Insurance. our family protecting yours.
After attending a Saturday Bumps and Bruises clinic by Southeast orthopedic specialists, my son's hip and shoulder issues were diagnosed quickly, and he's back playing. As a busy family, we really appreciate their prompt attention.
I've been having knee problems for probably 6 months, and I had heard about Southeast Orthopedics on the radio, and I gave them a call. They got me right in. Dr. Kevin Murphy did it. It was painless, and it's been doing fantastic.
Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
Hey, Jacksonville DDH. Dreamfinders Danny Hicken here with the scoop from Dreamfinders Homes, your national builder of the year. We've got first-year interest rates as low as 2.99% in homes in 20-plus communities throughout Northeast Florida. If you're house hunting, make sure your first pick Dreamfinders Homes, the proud official home builder of the PGA Tour, the Florida Gators, and your Jacksonville Jaguars. Visit dfhsalesevent.com today and tell them Dreamfinders Danny sent you.
Hey, it's Travis from Cannons of Jags. Thank you for trusting us for 55 years of custom welding fabrication and vehicle towing accessories. When you need a trailer hitch for the family car, a gooseneck for the company truck, or even RV towing options, call us at Cannons. We can do a bumper hitch, fifth wheel hitch, anything for safe, reliable towing. Come to Cannons of Jags, where service is our #1 priority and we treat our customers as we like to be treated. Check us out online, cannonsofjags.com.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Boy, there is a lot going on. Continued fallout from the NFL draft. We're obviously in the midst of the NHL playoffs, the NBA playoffs, and college football. Well, spring football is basically wrapped up, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the world of college football, college athletics. And have you seen what Florida and head coach John Sumrall have been doing on the recruiting trail? Let's talk about all of it with my buddy Brent Beard. You see him locally on First Coast News, and you also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. Mr. Beard, how are you, sir?
And I'm going to start with maybe one of the more important ones of all, Hank, and that is basically a month from now, we will have either one or two preseason college football magazines in her hand. Can you believe we're that close?
That'll be Christmas in May for Mr. Brent Beard. There is absolutely no doubt about that. And let's begin with college football since we're on the topic, Brent. Boy, hot streak for Florida on the recruiting trail. We talked about Maxwell Hiller, the 5-star lineman from Pennsylvania, about 2 weeks ago. Earlier this week, another interior offensive lineman, Peyton Miller from Texas. According to 24/7 Sports, those two are two of the top 10 interior offensive linemen in the nation. You had a 4-star quarterback in David Davidson, 4-star member of the secondary. They just got a 3-star wide receiver from Fort Lauderdale. Whatever John Sumrall and his staff are doing in Gainesville on the trail right now, it seems to be working.
Sumrall will tell you this very quickly, that not everyone wants to talk about the offensive lineman. But Hank, you know good and well, and you've seen this team up close over the last few years. That's one of the things they've got to do, and they've got to do well, right? Is they have got to get better offensive linemen. Phil Troutwine is the coach that's basically on the staff that's responsible for that. And he is doing just an incredible job so far in getting linemen. I think he said, or really the entire staff said, that was one of the areas on the line of scrimmage they had to improve the most. And Hank, when you get a couple of guys on the offensive line who are in the top 100 in the not the state, in the nation, it makes a difference, does it not?
Look, I said this last night. You know, quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, they sell the tickets, right? They get the highlights on SportsCenter.
Yeah.
But if you want to have a successful offense, it's pretty cut and dry. You need to have a good offensive line. Florida's maybe been lacking in that department. And Brent, you see what Sumrall is doing 3.5 months on the job, on the recruiting trail. Now, is that an indictment of Billy Napier and the job that he and his staff did? Is Summerall going above and beyond the call of duty, or maybe is it a little bit of both?
It's probably a little bit of both. I think it's more what Summerall has been able to do. Look, I mean, you've seen him in press conferences like I have, and he doesn't mince words. He really is, regardless of his history. Some people would say, well, he came from smaller schools. Yeah, well, everybody did in order to build themselves their identity. No, I think he speaks pretty plainly to these guys. He tells them like it is, and without a whole lot of fluff. And look, when you trace his history, he's been successful everywhere he has gone. And I have no doubt that once he gets the players he wants, Hank, that's going to follow him at Florida, too.
You see Brent Beard on First Coast News. You also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. Yeah, if you're a Gator fan, go to 24/7 Sports and take a still shot of their recruiting rankings, because, Brent, right now, Florida is ranked higher than Georgia. Now, I don't know when the last time that's happened at any point of the year. Will that last? I tend to doubt it, but it is a fact right now that Florida is above Georgia on the 24/7 recruiting rankings. Speaking of Florida, I brought up Billy Napier. Look, the Gators had 7 guys drafted in this past weekend's NFL draft. And again, you want to talk about indictments. Brent, how do you have 7 guys drafted and go 4-8 last year?
It's amazing. It really is. What a sad state of affairs that was. And look, hopefully Napier will find some success from here on out. Unfortunately, that did not happen at Florida, and that will be mentioned quite a while. And I mean, I give the Florida administration credit. They tried to go as far as they could, allowing him chances to be successful in way too many ways. It really did not work. But they're on a different trajectory now, and I think it's going to be one, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, that's going to be very successful. But it will take them a while when we can't cover that up to make up for the mistakes of the previous regime.
You know, and you want to talk about the SEC flexing their muscles a little bit, Brent. I believe they were the only conference where literally every team had at least one player drafted. Again, speaks volumes to where the SEC is.
Yeah, it really does. And it was another tremendous SEC draft. Now, look, everybody was getting real upset because of Big Ten one day one. Well, the draft is not just one day; it's multiple days, and that made a humongous difference for the SEC. I mean, even in round one, the SEC had 7, and the Big Ten had 10, and we get that. But when you look at it all the way around, it would just another mammoth draft by the SEC, who won another draft and who have won now so many in a row that people have lost count.
And Brent, your guy, Ty Simpson from your alma mater, goes 13th to the LA Rams. Surprised that Ty Simpson was the 13th pick in the draft?
Probably, but sometimes timing is everything, and this was not a great quarterback draft. You can certainly talk about that as well as anybody. But Simpson, listen, when Simpson gets protection, which he did not the way he should at Alabama, he got hurt in the South Carolina game, and he hurt his back, and that really cost him the rest of the year. But when he's healthy and he's gained his weight back, he is a very accurate quarterback, and that allows you to go for quite a while. Caden Proctor, the Alabama offensive lineman, who frankly was too big for his own good the last 2 years, that was an issue. But and he won't do it overnight, Hank. But I really do believe that that Simpson's going to be a very good quarterback before it's over.
And of course, the Jaguars visited the Southeastern Conference in their first 2 picks, taking 2 Texas A&M Aggies, tight end Nate Borkature and defensive lineman Albert Regis. All right, Brent, some big news off the field and off the court on the hardwood. Let's begin off the field. Boy, this Brendan Sorsby story in college football is wild. The Texas Tech transfer was thought to be one of the best quarterbacks in America coming into 2026. Still might be. The key word there is might, because he has checked himself into a residential treatment program for a gambling addiction. Apparently, it was uncovered that Sorsby had made thousands of online bets in a variety of sports with a gambling app. Look, you can't walk 10 feet without seeing something gambling related in the world of sports. You can't go 10 seconds without hearing a gambling commercial on the radio. It's the world we live in, and that's going to be a very slippery slope for the NCAA moving forward.
Well, but they are determined that they're going to try to do something about it. If you take a tour of any college football facility, you're going to see something on gambling. Frankly, every few feet is the reality of that. And look, Sorsby, even when he was at Indiana, was thought to be doing some gambling at that point. Yes, I get the advertisement, I get the money from it, but the reality of it, the NCAA has really drawn the line in the sand to where they do not want to have their athletes doing anything with gambling. Sorsby, and listen, Hank, this may cost Sorsby his whole season, because the NCAA, they'll never admit this, they want to make an example out of some players, and Sorsby may be one of those at this point. So good for him that he turned himself in to a facility to get some help with this. And you see something almost every day, don't you, in the headlines, whether it's basketball or whatever sport it is. Obviously here with football, but it is a mammoth problem, and I frankly don't know if we even are aware of how big a deal this is in college football.
I don't want to get too far ahead of it, but if there are ramifications and if there are suspensions coming, again, boy, Texas Tech's in a tough spot because there's not a second transfer portal, right? Back in the day, there'd be a second transfer portal where they might be able to go get somebody. They're not going to have that luxury now. So you're talking about Texas Tech, a team that was in the playoff last year, could have real problems at quarterback.
Well, and look, the problem here is the NCAA is determined that they're going to get a handle on this and crack down on it. And Sorsby may be one of a few of the elite athletes who they make an example from. I mean, what I mean by that is that there are some guys who may be suspended the entire season. So that this is something really to watch. And I'll tell you this, Hank, there are a lot of things that do not get the attention of school presidents. But when you've got school presidents who are coming out and they're making statements about gambling, you know that it's an issue because they know how dangerous this is for their sport. So that this is something we need to watch very carefully over the next few months.
Final moments with Brent Beard. You see him locally on First Coast News. You also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. Brent, I remember a world where the NCAA basketball tournament had 64 teams, right? It was a nice number, 64, 4 regions of 16. And then, of course, we've now upped that to the field of 68, where you have 8 additional teams get it play-in opportunities to get into the field of 64. And now, apparently, beginning as early as this upcoming basketball season, as in, like, next March, are we going to 76 teams? Is that the situation?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. The NCAA is determined that they're going to do this. The NCAA basketball tournament is a cash cow for them, and they think more is better. when frankly there are most people that do not think that more is better, and that this would be an absolute waste of time and energy to be able to do it. And we don't know all that how this will be laid out, but you would obviously have multiple playing games is what it amounts to. And the reality, Hank, is by the time you get to that many teams, when you get from 64 to 78 or whatever number they land on, your teams at that point are going to have maybe close to double-digit losses, and that, or even more. That's going to be a problem. So I know they want the money and the exposure and all that goes with it, but I think this is at this point is probably a runaway train, and we're not going to be able to stop it, unfortunately.
What do you have more of a problem with, 76 teams in the NCAA basketball tournament or potentially 24 teams in the college football playoff?
The basketball tournament, frankly, and that's a really good question. Now, I don't think they need to go to 24 in football. I think we could be very comfortable in going to 16 and leaving it there for a long time. The problem with the basketball is getting this watered down. And look, they may get what they want, but they probably will not get the ratings that they want that go along with it. So I would say my issues are more with the basketball tournament than football.
It'll be interesting. It's the almighty dollar. We certainly understand that, but it does appear the NCAA basketball tournament is going to expand to potentially 76 teams as early as this upcoming season. Brent, I want to circle back to one thing that I find really interesting in your notes, and I understand why, because there are more 3-stars than there are 5-stars. But if you go back to the first round of the NFL draft on Thursday, the 32 picks that were made, 6 of those 32 were 5-stars, right? 12 of them were 4-stars coming out of high school, but 14 of them were 3-stars. Everybody talks about, oh, we only got a 3-star. Well, 14 3-stars were just now first-round NFL draft picks last Thursday. It goes to show you, don't just say, oh, we got a 3-star, because those 3-stars turn out to be first-round picks more often than the 4 or 5-stars do.
Well, and to your point, and I know you mentioned this on your show, is and there's more validity now to the star rating system for college football than there was, Hank, 20 and 30 years ago. But the reality of this still remains that really does not have any factor on what the NFL does with these guys. That they know how to rate players. They've done it for years. They're the best in the world at doing it. So I mean, for what we do, and I get you got to have some kind of rating system just to make it all work. But the reality is, for the NFL, they see the potential in these 3-stars, and they see what they can do. And frankly, to some degree, Hank, there are times where they would probably tell you they'd rather have a 3-star, a guy who would be mentally ready to work and physically doing the same than they would even a 4 or 5. Now, they're not going to turn down 4 and 5 stars, but the main point of this is the rating system that we enjoy and like to see in college really means very little in the NFL.
You see Brent Beard on First Coast News. You also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. Brent, enjoyed the conversation as always. Next time you and I talk, it will be the month of May. That is absolutely hard to believe. Appreciate you, my friend.
Yeah, which means the preseason magazines will be in focus then. Always enjoy it, brother. Take care.
And thank you to my buddy Brent Beard. You see him locally on First Coast News. You also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. Yeah, man, continued changes in our college sporting world. Again, the idea that they're going to go potentially to 76 NCAA tournament basketball teams, pretty wild. I thought 64 was a fine number, and then they wanted to expand it to 68. Now they're probably going to expand it to 76. At what point are we going to stop? You know, college football playoff, kind of the same thing. First it was, 4, and then it's now 12, and there's talk about 16 or 24. I love the tournament. I love the playoff. You just don't want to, I guess, get too many participants. At some point, does it get kind of watered down a little bit? So we'll see. And then I talked to Brent about John Summerall, and I brought this up last night. Boy, doing a terrific job on the recruiting trail. Again, if you're a Florida Gator fan, I don't know how in the 4 months that Summerall's been on the job, 4.5 months, I guess, how you can't be anything but impressed with what he's done in the portal, what he's doing in recruiting, the excitement level that's back around the program. Again, wins and losses are all that matters, obviously. That's the big picture, and the narrative will change depending on if the W's or the L's start to stack up in September, October, November. But for the here and now, if you're a Florida Gator fan, what else could you have asked John Summerall to do his first 4.5 months on the job? So it's been really interesting to see the recruiting. And again, they're top 10 right now in recruiting. They're ahead of the Georgia Bulldogs. Will that last? Probably not, right? I mean, we're early still, but when's the last time Florida was ever ahead of Georgia at any point of the year in the recruiting rankings? So it just goes to show you, A, the lackluster job that was done by guys like McElwain, Mullen, Napier to an extent, but B, how quickly it could potentially turn around, as it appears it is turning around on the recruiting trail with John Summerall and his new staff. Well, that will just about do it, man. Very, very busy Wednesday night edition of Hacker After Dark. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM, and we have a ton of people to thank. Again, thank you to my buddy Brent Beard. You see him locally on First Coast News. You also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. Thank you to Brad Menendez, draftcountdown.com, as we had Brad on to review what the Jaguars did in the NFL draft and how that will shape their roster moving forward in 2026. Draft Countdown's been one of my draft websites for years, and Brad does a terrific job with that. And likewise, back in hour number 1, Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network. Always enjoy the conversation with Ian. He and the folks over there at Pro Football Network do a terrific job covering the NFL draft, and we certainly appreciate Ian's time with us here this evening. Now, things switch up a little bit tomorrow and Friday. I will be 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, so we move up a little bit, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, both tomorrow and Friday. So we do hope you join us. Blue on vacation, so I will be in his time slot beginning at 6 o'clock both tomorrow and Friday, heading in to the sports weekend. Aaron Williams was your producer tonight. Aaron, great job as always. I'm the hacker, Ryan Green. And again, Jacksonville, thank you for spending part of your Wednesday evening with us right here on Hacker After Dark, on 1010XL, and on 92.5 FM. So for all of us here on HAD, have a terrific remainder of your Wednesday evening, and we will talk to you again tomorrow night on a Thursday beginning at 6 o'clock. Until then, good night, Jacksonville.